There's only one thing that irritates me more than you, designer, and that's visual tension. It's the graphic bane of my creative existence, and I want you to purge it from your work. Sir, I will purge it, sir. Good. I want you to create a repeat pattern design, avoiding the pitfalls of visual tension. Are you up for this creative task, designer? Sir, I am, sir. Welcome to Vector Basic Training. This is the Avoid Visual Tension video. And before we jump into this, I want to define what visual tension is. When you're working on your project, be it a design project or an illustrative project, any attribute or element within your vector artwork that could degrade the aesthetic quality of your final product is what I would define as visual tension. Visual tension could be, maybe it's an anchor point that should be a smooth anchor point, but you overlooked it and it's a corner anchor point. So it's coming to a point instead of being an elegant curve. Well, that could be an attribute within your work that is going to degrade your work. And the more of those type of visual tension elements you have within your design, the less effective it's going to be aesthetically when it's all over with. So as you work through the creative process, through the build stage, through the refinement stage, even back in the sketch stage in analog form, before you even move to vector or jump on the computer, the more opportunity, or any opportunity I should say, that you have to isolate and to recognize these points of visual tension and improve them as you go along will improve the overall aesthetic quality of your work. That's basically, in a nutshell, what visual tension is all about. And in the process of watching all the videos on this DVD, you'll see me make little tiny corrections on things. Maybe I'm obsessing over the little curvature of a certain path, and you might be watching the video thinking, wow, he's really anal when it comes to that kind of stuff. You know, I think that looks fine. Why doesn't he just move on? Well, those are those elements of visual tension. Once you start to notice these things and you work and you improve them, you're going to be obsessive when it comes to it because you're going to see how much it improves it. So what I've done here is I'm staging the visual tension here. I'm purposefully working in elements of visual tension. In this case, I've taken the palm leaf that I used in the book to show shape building, and I'm going to create a repeat pattern from it. Well, this is the layout I've created for my pattern. It's just a bunch of vector shapes of this palm leaf. But this design has what I call visual tension in it. So look at the screen and see if you can figure out the areas of visual tension. I'm going to show them to you in just a second, but I want you to try to discern it before I even pinpoint and identify them for you. So as you're looking at this, what areas is your eye drawn to? You know, and this is something I learned in art school. We had a class. It was a fascinating class, other than the fact that the teacher of the class had us work on a project, not telling us it was his own freelance project, and then he used a lot of our concepts in his own client's work, and he got in big trouble. But other than that, the class was a lot of fun, and it was all about advertising psychology. And this is why when I got out of art school, I wanted to get into advertising. That's a whole nother story. And if you go to my blog, I have a couple stories I posted there about why I made the decision not to, because of the cutthroat aspects of it that I experienced really early on. But the cool part of this advertising psychology class is we got into, they didn't call it visual tension. I can't really remember what they called it, but it was the aspect of composition where you look at a design and you let the design dictate where your eye goes. And it was a fascinating part of the class because it never fails. If you just look at something and don't think, just let your eye naturally go where it wants to go. It works this way with visual tension. You can leverage that same instinctual quality to isolate those areas in your design that have visual tension. I don't know any other way to explain it than the way I just explained it there. So look at this. Don't think about it too hard and just let your eyes go. Inevitably, your eye is going to be drawn to some of these areas. These are the areas of visual tension. And the reason why they're areas of visual tension is these three palm leaves are too close together. There's no balance there. Your eye goes to these small gaps here and here. You want to avoid that unless it's purposeful, and that would be composition. You don't want to draw the eye to anything that's insignificant. It doesn't make any sense to do that. And that's basically what visual tension is all about. You want to direct the eye where the eye should be going. In this case, it should be looking at everything as one, a whole, not focusing in on insignificant little detail that has nothing to do with the overall picture. So these elements that I've circled here are where visual tension lies. So what I'm going to show you next is how these will improve. Now watch the movement of these shapes, and that's all I'm doing here. I'm just selecting these shapes and I'm going to move them to fix the visual tension. So watch how it improves when we revise the shapes by simply moving them. So that's how visual tension has improved. Everything's kind of balanced. There's enough breathing room between the shapes that everything works as a cohesive design. You know, your eye might still be directed to certain spots just because of how spatial relationships work, but the tension has been removed, meaning you're balancing form, you're balancing positive and negative in order to create a pleasing design. That's what it's all about. And learning how to do this isn't something you're going to learn overnight, but it's something you should be aware of. It's something that you can constantly improve on. So let's see how this final design came out. So this is the final swatch pattern. And we're going to take this pattern and flesh it out into its final repeat pattern design. So as you look at your design, as you look at your art, as you create your vector shapes, set it aside if at all possible, even for 5 minutes, an hour, even better, a whole day. Come back later, look at it. You're going to notice all those elements within your design, within your illustration projects, and it just takes a dedicated, purposeful action on your part in order to isolate them, recognize them, and fix them. So I hope this helps. I hope this kind of helps you wrap your mind around the whole aspect of visual tension. Thanks for watching.